I thought we were supposed to be searched and checked out and have a post-9/11 security environment at these airports. And it's something I've said years and years and years ago after 9/11. It's not going to matter what they do, because when they want someone to go through, they just let them go through. I can make you swim across a moat with alligators, weigh you down with 50 tons of cement, open fire on you with a 50 caliber machine gun before you get on your plane, and do a full vivisection. But it won't make things any safer, because when the time comes that I want my agent to get on the plane, I just let him pass. You have to go through all the hoops, blow the whistles, ring the bells, turn yourself inside out, pull down your Pampers, whatever you have to do. But when the time comes that I need my agent on the plane, he just goes on the plane. End of story. If he's successful, you figure it out. Another lady by the name of Shama Chopra noticed this guy at the airport too. And in jobs where you have a little tension from time to time due to like deadly conflict scenarios and things like that, we used to have an expression called the BSOF factor, beads of sweat on forehead, because as you get really, really, really scared, they're going to form. So that can happen sometimes because you got caught doing something illegal, or it could be happening because you're going into close quarters combat. But you can't turn off your body completely and totally, so the BOSOF factor was something that we devised, almost like you'd have the Richter scale. So depending on how scared you were and how much sweat was coming off your forehead, I think the movie Airplane did it comedically, where you'd have little windshield wiper blades on your glasses or something like that, just to to show that when it's really going down to the wire, you are afraid and there's nothing you can do about it. She picked him out. She's not a trained security observer. She doesn't work at the airport. She just saw this guy, and he's just sweating bullets. Doesn't have a bag, just his carry-on luggage. And then we have the lawyers, the Haskells, who saw him go on the plane without the passport and avoid the screening procedures. This was admitted by an American congressman, Congressman King, that they were not scanned. So what happens here? How does this go to be? Well, there can only be one answer, is they wanted it to happen. They let him get on the plane. The guy's father, who turns out to be a rich, influential banker with the Bank of Nigeria, well, imagine that. He goes to the U.S. State Department and the CIA twice to warn them about his son, that he's a radical jihadist, and he's worried about him. A report is filed with the CIA 5 weeks before this happened. Nothing happens. On the 20th of November, the intelligence agencies put out its OK Christmas report. Nothing's going to happen, nothing's pending. So everybody can go permanently to sleep. But what we have is we have this file that's not being acted upon. We have this man's name in a database that isn't being acted upon. Al-Qaeda even put out a warning from Yemen that they were going to attack. And still, nothing happens. There was a man on the airplane observed videotaping the whole affair. And the police can't find him. Well, how did he get away? No one was allowed off the plane until the police took them off the plane. Where did he go? Where's the camera? Where's the footage? The guy was just nonchalantly filming the whole episode. That just speaks volumes of what's going on. But of course, the big guys that you pay for, they won't tell you these things. But we'll tell you these things, and we'll tell you more and more and more. One of the things we are a little bit concerned about, because before the story broke, there was another story coming out of Yemen on the Depka file. U.S. drones wipe out top al-Qaeda leaders in Yemen. Well, that attracts my attention. And what we see here is the preemptive strike, getting rid of probably maybe some of the brains of the operations or some of the co-accomplices. Because one of the individuals that just caught my eye, Anwar al-Akali, was supposed to be the imam who preached to U.S. Major Nadal Malik Hassan, the alleged gunman at Fort Hood. And then after we have the high attempted destruction of this aircraft, the terrorist has the same imam. Well, isn't that a coincidence that he was so fortunately killed the day before the attack? So that tells me that's one of those like biker gang attacks, taking care of business before it happens. And that implies even more that this was an inside job at the highest level. Then we find out the terror suspect, Abdul Muttalab, took Islamic classes in Houston, Texas. Well, Fort Hood and Major Hassan kind of hang out in Texas, don't they? Major Hassan was a psychiatrist. The man he killed, the other doctor that they don't talk about, that we brought up on this show, and if you go back to our podcast file, you can listen to that in the most vigorous detail, was a psychiatrist too. Not only was he a psychiatrist, he was Guantanamo's psychiatrist. And he was featured so prominently in Guantanamo's newspaper, as I recall, The Wire, alongside of an article that says, "Go Postal." But that's just us. Were these guys the manufacturers of Manchurians? Or were they working in and about where people would be manufacturing this? Or were they hearing things at Guantanamo that you shouldn't be hearing about? And were they taking care of business? And was this all part of a master plan, a master strategy that culminates in this attack, whether it was successful or unsuccessful? I think the object of the attack was to make us all slaves, to get us all into this new world order security nightmare. One of the other little bizarre anecdotes that happened in Texas as well over the so-called holidays was the home where Howard Hughes was married, a $12 million estate at 10 Remington Lane, just happened to burn to the ground. Not much news to a lot of people, except this home now is owned by a company called Neighbors Industries Limited, and its CEO lives there. Neighbors Industry Limited is doing some new drilling work in Yemen. So is this all part of the master scheme? Does it have a sideline? Is this home used for alternative mind control experiments, perhaps? But when we're taking care of business, we take care of business and we get rid of all the loose ends. And another loose end that I am concerned about was Dr. Antonio Ferrigno, the Italian nuclear physicist who just happened to be murdered on Christmas Eve as well. His body was found tied up, blood on the floor, time of death approximately 4 to 6 a.m. on the 24th. But of course, he just happened to be in the Netherlands. And then of course, our good buddy was flying from the Netherlands. So kind of weird that the head of the, or I should say not necessarily the head, but an executive with the European Patent Office, a man with serious academic credentials in physics, should just happen to die at the same time. Was he involved in getting Sudanese refugees onto airplanes from time to time? Or perhaps maybe he was providing certain substances in a syringe that he could get at various university laboratories without question because he's a scientist. And then of course, in the old pirate adage, dead men tell no tales. But it just seemed kind of bizarre that he would just happen to be murdered at the time, the day before, our terrorist is supposed to launch this massive attack on the United States. We're all well trained now because of 9/11. We know very, very well how all this stuff works. Even when it first happened, I know I was in communication with Joyce at the Power Hour, and I told her it's a false flag operation just from seeing the picture. I said, just wait. Give it a day or two for the information to start filling in. You'll see right away, but one of the big reasons is, of course, the Patriot Act is up for renewal, and it's not too popular to get it extended. Of course, that has changed now. I'm sure they'll have no trouble approving it at this point. Not that it's the proper or pertinent thing to do, just that we seem to be reacting to this stimulus just like a trained dog, and we just keep running back into the trouble over and over and over again by getting ourselves in a deeper commitment to make a police state. One of the other little sidelines that no